Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Safe House Podcast with your man, Pastor Ferguson, and my brother, Mitchell Harper. Mitchell, what's happening, man?
Happy Wednesday. Happy tax day to those who celebrate. I hope you paid your taxes this year. And
Nah, I did not.
You did not.
I'm struggling.
File an extension.
Ooh, nah, I'm gonna pay it today. I'm gonna pay it today. Hey,
Danielle was on the phone with the IRS for like 2 hours today. It was
Yo,
so,
tax game was crazy this year because of the new job.
yeah.
Exemptions was all messed up, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
I should have checked that at the beginning of the year because now it's messed up halfway through the year. Oh, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, at least on this tax day, you should get a little bit of relief because it's the podcast we up and we running Safe House Podcast every Wednesday, 6:30-ish, as we love to say around here on all of our platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and the like. And if you're catching us on the replay, you're catching us on the visual on the platforms and on all podcasting platforms. If you just don't want to see our faces and you just want to hear, whether you're running, jogging, anything like that, because I know some people just learn by hearing and not necessarily by the visual. And of
When you hear that
course,
smooth voice conversation.
hey, we gotta put a little bit on it. Gotta put a little mousse on it. You feel what I'm saying?
As long as Mitchell's in the mic.
Exactly. And as always, Clay United Methodist Church is here every Sunday, 10 a.m. for worship on all of our platforms as well as in person. Definitely come on out and be with us in worship. It'll bless your life. I want to try to get into this a little bit tonight because I got to give some honor to how we're going to probably move for the next few weeks and everything like that. And Mitchell, if you could open us in prayer, we can just kind of jump on in because I just know somehow this thing's going to get interesting.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for gathering us together. Thank you for the beautiful weather that you've blessed us with today. We know that even though the weather is beautiful, that doesn't mean that everyone is getting to experience it and enjoy it in the same way. We just ask that you be with us, be with those who can't be with us, and just help us to just be the church that you'd have us to be. And hopefully some of that happens with the conversation that we are having today, Lord. So just be with us so that we can do your will. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Tonight, I think this is going to end up being a series of episodes because we gotta give a little bit of shout out to how we came to this place. So if you were with us last week, we kind of ended in a place that got interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it always happens. Stuff get interesting at the end.
5 minutes till.
Right. Because everybody's like, oh, by the way, here's what's on my mind. And as a side note, if you're online, comment. We pay attention to all of it. We face it. We deal with it. We talk about it. And this is why you should comment, because it's out of the conversations come some of the thoughts that we have. So,
And it keeps us honest. We just get to talking sometimes, and we need to hear from y'all.
exactly, because
Interactive.
yeah, I may have a smooth voice, but even I get sick of hearing my own self talk. So,
But I got the headphones on, so never mind.
You were supposed to say you run the mics.
I mean, I could mute them.
it'd be
you
like,
sound like a transformer out here.
yeah, I know, man. It'd be crazy. But one of the things that we kind of ended was the concept of the church as hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing kind of just sat. And I'm glad that it sat because it makes me think about, are we doing everything at every level? And one of the things that we don't always talk about enough, I think, and we're going to be contextual. Our context is the United Methodist Church, which Methodism and a lot of there are other denominations that have some of this as well. We are called a connectional church. So it's not just about one congregation, it's our connection to all.
Yes.
So we are set to do our thing where we are planted, but also we find ways to work together so that we can advance the kingdom. And so when I sat with it for a minute, I don't know how the Lord allowed me to sit with it, but I sat with it And it made me think about truly the hospital motif.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we really think about it, most hospitals in existence now, right, are connections on the level of being their networks. There you go.
Yes.
You have um in here in Columbus, there are 3 major networks. I'll say 3, maybe more, but I think it's just 3. And that's Trinity Health, which is inclusive of Mount Carmel,
Mm-hmm.
primarily, and there's others that are a part. You have Ohio Health,
Mm-hmm.
that's Grant, Riverside, all that stuff like that. Um, and I'm about to mess up. I know.
I'm about to say
no,
those are the
oh,
two
wait.
that I know.
No,
Yeah.
no. The third one is actually Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say
Yeah.
it's Ohio
That's
State.
because Ohio State has moved from just being, the university hospital to now a network.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you have 3 major networks in Columbus alone that are represented,
Mm-hmm.
which they have three different ideas of how medicine should be done. They focus in specific areas, and each one is known to have stronger X, Y, and Z depending on circumstances,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like for instance, Ohio State is more known for their cancer research
Right.
and dealing with general, cancers of all sorts.
Yeah, they're more the experimental. Like they're gonna try all the new stuff.
Right.
Don't say experimental when you talk
Well,
about my
when I
hospital,
say
please.
experimental, they do stuff that other countries are already doing.
Their
Yeah.
research,
research.
They-
Because they're a
yeah.
university hospital.
yeah, their research
They're
focus.
research for it. So when I say experimental, I mean they're just doing procedures that no other hospital is going to try.
And then you have, like with Ohio Health has gained a reputation for dealing with neurology, strokes, things like that. They are well known for that. And then you have with Mount Carmel, they're known for a few other things as well. So it's like everybody has their specific thing. But even within every network,
Mm-hmm.
you still have very basic things that should exist in every hospital, every network, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, healthcare is ultimately still healthcare.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
And even though you say that,
Mm-hmm.
translate that to church, like
Well,
it should be
Yeah, for
that
sure.
church is still church, right? But even in that, we're not always seeing within our networks.
Yeah.
Different denominations.
They still at the core should still be
It still should be the same, like you said. Like each
Right.
church might have a specialty.
right, but it still should be right.
Yeah.
And what we discover is a lot of places, regardless of denomination and setup and network and everything else, every place ain't really exemplifying
Yeah.
what it is and what it means to be church. And so, if the church is supposed to equate to being a hospital, there's a lot of different teams that should exist. And so tonight we're going to deal with the triage team.
Mm.
Every hospital I've ever gone to, the first group of folk that you see, triage.
Usher board.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be the usher board. Why are you laughing, brother?
No, it's fine.
But here it is. When you're triaging,
Mm-hmm.
you're starting off by trying to assess your basic metrics, right?
Right.
Intake.
Intake, blood pressure, this, and this, all your vitals, things like that. Because if we can navigate the vitals plus discuss what are the symptoms you're feeling
Yeah.
and all these other things, it at least gives a start to how your care should be handled.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're triaging well, then we're able to respond in a way from the beginning that ultimately leads towards better care for the individual.
Yes.
If it's done well in triage, that should be the beginning of good to great care.
Not only good care, but efficient care, so that you don't end up in neurology when you're supposed to be in cardio.
Exactly. And so the scriptural kind of jump off point that we may not do a whole lot of exegesis to it, but it was just the only thing that stuck out to me is a half a verse. James 5:13 in the A clause is that was the only thing that jumped out at me for real. And it just says this in English Standard: is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. If anyone among you is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray.
And it's short, but like there's enough there to unpack some stuff for sure.
And I know that because I've read it before, I've preached from it, a series a few years back where I talked about various types of prayer. In this particular scripture, it's talking about the prayer of faith. It's like in prayer of faith will heal the sick and things like that. So there is a context, but there's also something to be said about just this first piece, right? Is anyone among you suffering? You can keep it as narrow as what the text is talking about. And for the purposes of the conversation, you can make it as broad as whatever it's supposed to be. Are there those suffering among you? Let him pray. Go further for the sake of it. Is anyone cheerful? Let them sing praise. If is anyone among you sick, let them call for the elders of the church and let them pray over you, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. So all these different things, James in essence is saying we have to examine who's coming in, not from a perspective of judgment, but from a perspective of why are you arriving at the assembly?
Yeah, and I think that there's an interesting dichotomy in almost how it, like, and I obviously don't know it in the original language, but like in the way that it's said here, it almost feels like, is anyone among you suffering is broad enough for it to be like, does the person who's coming in think that they're suffering? But also like, do you notice as the person who's already here if someone who is coming in is suffering? So it's like, I think a lot of times we diagnose folks differently than they would diagnose themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think like being able to sort of hold the space of, yeah, maybe someone's coming in and they don't know how to sort of express what is going on with them, but you have the capacity to sort of be able to unpack that. But on the flip side of that, don't tell people that they're not sick when they're coming in telling you that they got something going on.
Exactly. And that mentality is pervasive in not just healthcare setting, but also in church setting. So when somebody's coming in, like one of the things I tell people all the time is the best thing and the worst thing you can do as a person coming into the church is deal with a pastor like me that observes everything. I observe everything. Even if you don't think I'm seeing it, I'm seeing it. If you don't think I'm hearing it, I'm hearing it. Not because I'm trying to be in your business, but because there is a necessity to know, hey man, this is what could be in the atmosphere. And you just kind of sit back. And sometimes, yeah, everybody coming in dead, not necessarily because they're tired of this, that, or the other, but something's up.
Yeah.
Some people did everything they could to show up just because they wanted to be in a space where they could what? Praise and worship and not dwell on what they've been dealing with until it may be time. We had a moment where we prayed at the end of service this past Sunday, which was actually kind of unique. And it's not that we don't do it. It's not like we've never done it, but it was unique in the sense of allowing some people to share what they've been dealing with.
Yes.
Not necessarily from a testimony standpoint, but from a place where people begin to think about what a miracle looks like.
Correct.
What does, some people think that a miracle looks like X, Y, and Z. I was in this, but I got delivered. And then people heard the story of one of our members whose husband had a whole circumstance that happened that should have done a whole lot more to him.
Right.
But the miracle of it was that nothing in how the body would normally respond occurred, which then allowed for healing and other things to begin, which to this moment, even as I'm saying it, still blows my mind.
Yeah.
And people would be like, well, he still, I'd be like, you don't understand. The miracle is what should have done him in didn't. And not only did it not do it, the way that the things unfolded, nobody can explain.
I'm about to say that's not even just our amateur opinion. That's the
Yes.
professional's opinion.
And it was stated, the professional said, this moment right now is a God moment, and God is driving the ship. Now, if the doctor can say that and they got all the education, right? There are some things that you just cannot rationally explain, and you got to call it what it is. But then here's what happened. When that went out and we come to the altar, it opened up opportunity for people that needed to release that didn't look like they needed to release when they came in. They didn't look like they were going through whatever they're going through, and suddenly, you see what I mean? And people don't realize when you don't really know what's happening and you're able to kind of, let's break this down, then suddenly something's happening that wasn't happening literally 90 minutes before, or even 2 hours before with somebody, because I'm without saying who it was, I saw them when I came in, they was on cloud 9.
Absolutely.
But then suddenly something happened.
Sometimes you need to be reminded that you're in the space where you can actually do that.
Yes. So my prayer shifted. My approach to the prayer moment shifted, not because nobody else needed it, but because something occurred in a moment that required something more than what any of us anticipated, because it was just coming forth. So when we are triaging things, so to speak, we got to pay attention not just to ourselves, but we got to pay attention to what's going on around us. And if we're doing so, then we're able to say, okay, this may not require, we're going to joke around, we're going to be this, and this in this moment, but it may require presence over speech. It may require comfort over flippant response. You know, the one response I hate the most, if I'm actually telling you what's going on with me and then somebody, no, here's the flippant response. Somebody be like, oh man, it's going to be okay. I don't want to hear that right now. Because even though I already know that part, I'm dealing with the weight of what's happening in the moment. I keep telling people, I know the end from the beginning is going through the middle that I'm struggling with. Because I don't know how far the end is, but it feels further than it wants. And if we don't learn how to see and create the healing environment that allows for us to be able to, like, maybe right now, they don't want to shout, they may not want to do this, they may not want to do that, but something about what I do, being around them, may become contagious and open up. Like somebody's praise ends up opening up somebody's tears. I've seen it happen. Like people will come straight into church and be like, they going through hell, and it took everything for them to get there. But then all of a sudden something happens in worship that breaks through that. And either they finally have the tears to just let out, or they got the shout to let out, and then they're able to open themselves up to what needs to happen next, what needs to be said, what needs to be done. I feel free enough to say, here's what's been burdening me, and I don't want to take it back out.
And I think, like so much of that triage mindset is just observation and discernment. Like it's not about necessarily having an answer. Like, it's not your job always to have the answer, but it is your job to be able to sort of see what is happening to whatever extent and know what the first step should be in terms of engaging with it.
You mean I'm not supposed wait. I'm not supposed to have the answer to everything that comes my way?
I mean, if you did, well, I mean, what's the point at that? Like,
I mean, but are you sure? You know what I mean? Like, because people do kind of like pastor should know. I don't know if I should know everything, but people swear up and down I should.
absolutely.
And
I
I'm
mean,
like,
But I think that's the same idea of like if you go to a doctor,
mm-hmm,
you expect a doctor to be able to help you
mm-hmm.
and know the answer. So if you have that occupation in that field, I think it's a predetermined notion that you should have an idea of that answer.
Yeah, but I also, like, if you don't know, I need you to be able to say that you don't
Yeah,
know.
there's also an ego aspect of that. If your pastor doesn't know, you also have to agree. The pastor has to be like, I don't know, and the person also see he's still a human.
Well, I mean, like, if your doctor says this is what's happening and they're incorrect, like, that can ultimately cause more harm because you feel the need to be able to tell me that this is the issue rather than say that you just don't know. Because
Fair.
then we're going down the wrong road, and then it takes even longer to get to where we need to get for me to actually get the healing that I need to get.
And it's also like everything else, like that there's a chance I am going to get it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you, like I said, you still have to realize they are human. Like if the pastor says, this we gonna work on it, and it might not be the move, and the person also has to understand that could happen, and it doesn't mean don't go back to them.
No,
that,
for
that
sure.
That definitely happens a lot too. I went to the church.
Say that,
I don't
bro.
like them. They said I'm going somewhere else, or I'm never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with what your problem was. It was just, if you want to use a doctor term, misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
But how many times you sit there in your own life and you go, I got a headache, this, that, the other. It could be allergies.
You just needed to
I could
drink
be
some water,
sick.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I can have 1,000 different things that have the
Right.
same symptoms. And then you go somewhere, they be like, they got it wrong. It's like, well, obviously, because I could have been 14 other things.
Yeah.
And
I also think being misdiagnosed in good faith is different than,
right.
like you said, my ego doesn't allow me to tell you that I don't know, so I'm just going to tell you something.
But I think that misdiagnosis is where people get messed up.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I just think that's where people get hung up on the mixed diagnosis. Like, well, you ain't good enough, and it's like that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Like it's a process of elimination. If this didn't work, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So then, when we even dealing with the concept of triage, this is about stuff that has to happen in real time.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're dealing with, when you're triaging the thing, you're dealing with every element of whatever's presented to you in
At that
real
time.
time. At that moment, in real time. Because here are the questions. How long you been dealing with this? How long has this been going on? How long?
Where you been?
Where you been? Yeah, where you been? Who did you deal with? What was the last thing you ate? Like, you say, well, I got a stomach ache. Okay, what's the last thing you ate? Where did you have it?
You
When
got
did
any
it start?
allergies?
Do you have any allergies? This, and this, so on and so forth. When you're triaging, you're dealing with everything in the moment. You're not going to get the entire medical history of a person in the moment. You're trying to at least address what is being presented.
The most common.
Right.
But then, like, how do you deal with that piece? Like you said, it's in real time, but as the person doing the triage work, I also have to trust that the patient is giving me accurate information to work with.
And
all the information.
Exactly.
And so here's the thing, right? Because now you got to deal with, so what we're talking about now is we're dealing with, you already mentioned it, discernment, response, right? And we're dealing with discernment and response. We're discerning a thing and how to respond to the thing, right? And we're trying to deal with the spiritual and the emotional in real time. So when somebody is weeping, I can't make the assumption that they're weeping because X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I have to make the assumption, at least, that whatever is causing this moment if I've been paying attention, for instance, I'll go back to Sunday.
Mhm.
I paid attention to a diametric shift between what I saw at about a quarter to 10 to what I saw at a quarter to noon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Ooh,
there was a
y'all
shift.
sure are in church a long time.
Not even close. Look.
Whoa. Don't
Whoa.
disrespect. We
No, wait,
got
first of
dinner
all-
and lunch after church every Sunday.
Look. First of all, you're a member.
That's right. Ain't no more y'all. It's us.
Right. You're a member. Y'all is you.
Look. Stop bringing in cookies after service, and then people might leave on time.
There
Right.
was cake. You right.
See?
Exactly.
See?
There you go.
Uh-oh. It's not on.
Turn it on.
When you're doing the triage aspect and you come up upon someone who is supposed to be asking the questions with interest and they're just kind of passing it off. Yeah, okay, you're hungry or you're hurting, but they're not giving you any response that makes you want to do anything or further the conversation. What do you do about that?
So-
I mean, this is what happens in churches.
So then this is where we get into the first kind of flow moment.
Yeah.
Triage requires honest identification.
Mhm.
Honest identification. So
From both sides.
that's right.
Yeah.
So my approach, okay, let me say it this way. In my time in ministry, I have never been in a position where I just rolled up on somebody and asked them, based on what I see or what I'm witnessing, what's happening. The only time I ask about something that's happening is to somebody I got a relationship with and be like, okay, dog, what's going on? Right? That's relational. Usually people that I don't have prior relationship with or anything like that, all I try to present is a calming, non-anxious presence.
Yeah. A safe space.
That's all I do. And for whatever reason, over the last 20 plus years, folk decide to open up to me more than a lot of Catholics do with their priests. Folk decide to confess everything around me. I always come back to this. I'm trying to lighten this thing up for a minute. I literally triaged the moment on my wedding day.
Ooh.
And who was it with? My brother-in-law. And when did it happen? After the wedding, when we were all at the hotel, and all I was trying to do with my new bride was eat some wings and eat a Caesar salad. In the lobby of the hotel, we hadn't even changed out of our stuff yet. We just trying to have a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes my new brother-in-law who decides to just tell me everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difference in that was, in the back of my head, I'm like, do you not know that, yes, we're now connected, but I got things to do,
Wings. Come on,
right?
man.
My wings got cold.
Yeah.
My salad got wilted. My drink got flat. I ain't appreciate all that. But for whatever reason, my brother-in-law, and we talk about it all the time, and we joke about it now because it's hilarious, because it really is funny. And I told him, like, for every year that I stay married to your sister, you got to put some interest on my wings. It's an inside thing, but see y'all laughing. But it's true, right? He close to paying off. But in that moment, regardless of what I was feeling, I sat there as a non-anxious presence, and I didn't shift on him, but he was able to just, and over the years since, when we get together, sometimes that's all he'll do, because he hasn't always had what? An outlet, or felt like he had an outlet.
Right.
And he's safe enough to be with his brother-in-law that he's older than and be like, hey man, I'm just going to tell you everything on my mind. He's not going to say it that way, but suddenly it just all comes out.
Yeah.
Some people are built that way to allow people the room to get honest. When I feel safe, I can get honest. That means on the other side of it, as a person that's supposed to be helping in the triaging moment, sometimes it's not to do the long list of questions. It's just presenting yourself in a way that allows people to know you can be honest in this space.
Yeah.
And dare I say this, jumping almost to the end before we get there, everybody is not a triage agent.
Right.
Let's get that clear.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can't triage. The triage team is not the entire church. It's certain folk that know how to discern, witness, and observe. And as they observe, they are what? Honest, genuine, welcoming, and they are safe folk that know how to get you to where you need to be. And sometimes where that person needs to go is not always the pastor first.
Mm-hmm.
When people start open, you see what I mean? And so if we're working together throughout the entire church, right, the first people should be those that are like, welcome to Claire.
Right.
And I'm not talking about just whether you're in a certain position or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we may semi-jokingly say the first face you see is going to be an usher and all that stuff, and they should be like, well, no, yeah, they should be a welcoming face. But when you're dealing with people that come in, regardless of how welcoming someone is, how much they're smiling, everybody ain't smiling when they show up and walk in.
Right.
So there are certain folk that are built to make people feel at ease.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that should be out in front, that are going to be what? Honest enough, safe enough, and recognize folk ain't going to say everything. Because the last time they did, and they're not going to tell you this, but the last time they told somebody all that they were going through, that group of people used it against them, or they did this or they did that, and they was like, look, I don't trust nobody, nowhere, no how, no whatever. So when we're triaging, it does begin with naming the condition. But the thing about it is some people are going to bring in the hidden stuff and not reveal the hidden stuff, but they will tell you what is happening on the surface.
Yes.
I'm not feeling good today. I might be a little bit tired. Your tired may not be physical. Your tired may be, I'm sick and tired of people, things, and situations. Your weariness may not be because you didn't get any sleep, but because you're trying your best, but it seems like your best is not good enough. All that stuff. So people are doing all this stuff. But here's the other thing that we do as the church, and this is what we got to own. Yeah. We over-spiritualize pain.
Yeah, well, yeah. Because sometimes, like you said, sometimes it's not a physical tired, but sometimes it is a physical tired.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, how do I hold space for you just being that you maybe didn't have someplace to sleep last night?
Right. And so when we over spiritualize, we be like, oh, the devil is on your trail.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the devil ain't on your trail.
Sometimes it's just capitalism.
Sometimes you just overwhelmed by the fact that people keep on talking about nothing but negativity, and you just needed a space where it's positive. I showed up to church today just to be around some positive energy. And people be like, well, positive energy. Some people literally will go to church not trying to join a church, not trying to do any of that stuff, but they like, I dealt with so much negativity over the last 6 days. On this 7th day, let me be around something positive. And this is gonna blow everybody's mind. And church folk, listen, it's okay if people show up that way.
Yes, because it is the quote unquote unchurched people that actually hold church folk accountable to be what they actually say that they claim to be.
Come on, man. And the thing about it is sometimes folk just want you to just be who you are. They may not join, but I've learned this. Every assignment I've ever been to, there's some people never joined the churches that I pastored, but guess what? They showed up every Sunday. They did all this kind of stuff. They encountered everything. They got into the community, and they were just like, you know what? I want to be a part of this community because of what it allows for me to have. And they know who they can call on, who they can trust, who can ... And sometimes that's probably the best thing that we can be for a whole lot of folk. And could it be that rather than see if we get numbers, so to speak, we're doing the work that actually begins a healing process for people?
Yeah, I think this correlates. So just work with me for a second.
Work.
But years ago, I used to be in youth ministry at a church.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have kids, come in who were connected to other kids. And so, like, we had a lot of kids whose parents were not, quote unquote, connected to the church or a church, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But, like, over time, sometimes their parents would show up for a thing. And they would be very adamant about the fact that, like, this is not, like, I don't believe in none of this. I have no desire to believe in any of this, blah, 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 blah. But then they're there this week. And then they're there next week.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're helping in the kitchen. And then they're running and sign up for this event. And then they're, and like they're engaging with the community because they know the community, even though they have no desire to actually be a quote unquote church person. But that person is doing more oftentimes than the people who show up every week in their suit and tie and pray the long prayer and do all this, that, and the third. And so, like, you've got to hold space for the fact that, like, you don't know how people are going to show up. You don't know why people are going to show up. But when they do show up, you've got to let them be them. And, warts and all sometimes, because if folks in the church can't get it right, why would we assume that folks not in the church are going to get it right every single time? But, like, those kids showing up and being treated the right way then allows their parents to be able to say, well, I don't believe in it, but I know that I can at least be present in this space.
And so for that to occur, then we have to understand that triage requires trained responders. So everybody can't triage. Let's be clear. Everybody can't triage. Everybody ain't built for this.
Yeah.
So here's this. In a hospital, not everyone does triage. Let's be clear. Everybody don't do it. You got nurses, you got techs in all levels of a hospital, right? You got nurses everywhere, you got, RNs, you got everybody, right? At all levels. But everybody's not built for the ER. Not everybody's built for cardiac floor and all that stuff. And some folk are just not built to triage a situation.
Yeah.
They're just not. No matter, and because if they got to deal with more than 3 people at a time in a short stint, they'll blow a gasket.
Yes. That bedside manner is gone.
They don't have it. Like, it just don't exist at all. But there are people that are built to deal with it, right? And see, here's the thing. We have to stop expecting everybody to be trained in the same way.
Yes.
I do not expect everybody to be this. As a pastor and as a believer, I just stopped a long time ago believing that everybody is going to function at the same level of discernment, same level of this, same level of that. Forget it. It ain't happening. Sorry. It's not happening. I'm cool with that too. I'm absolutely cool with that, because there's some folk I don't want. Okay. Light moment, but serious moment. I don't want everybody up in the kitchen.
That's a fact.
if you can't boil water, I ain't said nothing about seasoning. I ain't saying nothing about a protein. If you can't boil water,
I burned a Pop-Tart in the microwave once.
that's deep.
That's why I bring rolls and drinks to dinner.
I mean, how'd you burn it? I got
I
questions there.
know how you did it.
I misread the box. I thought it said like either 3 seconds or 30 seconds, and I think I did 3 minutes.
Jesus.
And
You ain't smell that bad boy.
I left. I was off doing other things.
Oh my God.
That's lava at that point.
Yeah. It was black.
Oh,
The
my God.
inside was black.
That was you probably saved your own life. Oh my God.
Put a paper towel in the toaster oven once. Like, yeah, you don't want me in the
Paper
kitchen.
towel in the toaster.
I was a child, but it's still unacceptable.
That
So-
is
Now we gotta go to the parents. How did y'all allow this?
like what it anyway.
Y'all knew Mitchell was a liability from birth.
Like you needed all the liability insurance.
I needed all
Like,
the supervision. Is
Oh
what I
my
needed.
God.
Wait. Matter of fact, you had 3 sisters.
Yeah, and they never let me forget that I burned a Pop-Tart.
But on they watch.
Yeah.
Wow.
See?
It was like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, not everybody belongs in the kitchen.
And you know what? And that's cool, right? You should be able, I think people that go into a kitchen should be able to do enough for themselves. And if you know that you can tolerate what you're doing,
Right.
it does not mean that you need to share what you do for yourself with the masses.
Yeah.
You know, just do what you do, okay? Unless somebody tasted something from your plate one day and they said, oh, this is actually good.
Right.
And somebody can confirm that you did it and then you do it and you repeated the performance. Okay. But everybody should know how to do stuff, but everybody ain't gonna cook for the masses. Okay. Let's get that out the way, right?
I got a mean bowl of cereal.
There you go.
That's right.
And guess what? Everybody still do that different. Some people pour the milk in before the cereal. Right.
Disrespectful.
We don't talk about those people.
Like,
I know some of those people, and we don't talk
yeah,
about some
it's
of
like
those.
we don't talk about Bruno.
I know.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So
Whole movie talked about Bruno.
right. So when we deal with that, we have to understand that, everybody's not going to respond the same way. And that's fine. But we have to have people that are prepared, trained, and able to discern and recognize what needs to be done.
So that's where I think a question arises for me, right? Because yes, we want people who are trained and prepared.
Yes.
But as a church, like the church is supposed to be a place where I get to show up as my full self.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And like there are some folks and some personalities, and sometimes it's everybody, but like there are weeks where I'm going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I have a reputation for being X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
or being able to do X, Y, and Z,
Right.
there are some Sundays that I'm going to show up and I'm not there.
Yeah.
Or the opposite. There are people who, you don't put so-and-so as a greeter because that is not, but then like, they show up and they're in a good mood suddenly. So like, how do you from like a week to week or like an event to event thing, like sort of determine how that works?
So this is where the church globally or even locally have to begin to take some ownership and accountability for things. One of the things that we do all the time, and we are terrible with this, and the reason we're terrible, and I can say we're terrible with it because I've been seeing it all my life. If I wasn't a church kid, you know what I'm saying, I would probably be like, But as a church kid that grew up and watched and saw and ... here's the thing that we always do, generally. We will find people, gifted, talented, all that stuff, get them, whether it's in a position or into something, and then we wear them
we leave
out.
them there.
We lean so heavily on them that we don't venture out and see all of what we have. Remember, triage is a team thing, right? Even though you may see 3 people, that doesn't mean that's all that are in triage, right? You got these 3 people and they're on for this shift for like, was it 8 or 10 hours. Then you got another shift that comes in 8 or 10 hours. Then you got another shift that comes in, right? Every Sunday, there should be potentially one shift after another of people that are prepared. Why? Because that helps others that may not be on. You see what I mean? So it's like, for instance, I don't like people asking me stuff like, what do you need? Like, what do you need? Like, I told you I'm going through. I don't need you to ask me what I need. I need you to be prepared for whatever comes within what it is that you do.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you all this stuff, and I've said a lot of things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're prepared to recognize, okay, this is what needs to happen. This is what needs to be done, ... I'm the type of person that says, function how you function. Don't go beyond your function. If you know, for instance, I can sing a little bit, but 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to get up and lead a song unless I absolutely feel it.
Sure.
But guess what I do? I find somebody somewhere that can lift their voice. Like this past Sunday. Normally we don't, when the brothers sing, because we have a certain musician that has to leave, we don't always get to do the hymn of the month or whatever, because we'll just kind of shift gears but we did it this Sunday. And so the first thing I did, you know what I did? I looked for certain folk in the crowd because I didn't feel like lifting my voice. Not because I couldn't, but because I know if it's played in a certain key, that means I'm going to put strain, which means that when I get up to preach, I got to shift and all that stuff. So I found somebody. I did this. This is exactly what I did. All I did was look around. I found my person. And when I looked at them, I didn't say anything. I just went like this. Once they caught my eye, I went like this.
Yeah.
Because I knew the crowd
Right.
wasn't going to. They went, 2-3 people were going to lift their voice. And if they lifted their voice, it would actually still allow the sound of worship to go. Sometimes folk just don't, not because they don't want to, but they don't have it. Some people just can't sing, period. They'll try it and they sound crazy, but they'll sound crazy. And then other people get silent and they know they can do it. And they'll just be like, they'll just let it go crazy. Be like, no, I need you to. I just looked at it and he was like,
Gotcha.
and he was like, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, cool. This ain't going to die on the vine.
Right.
You see what I mean? We have to be better in discerning the fact that just because you see a thing and you see a person and they're gifted and they're talented and all that stuff, just because when you try to convince them to start doing the thing, that don't mean that you leave them hanging. And that's the problem. We see people that have great discernment, they have great empathy, they have this, they have that, but people don't consider that sometimes they might be off.
Yeah.
And so we have to create the team mentality rather than just finding the exceptional.
Yeah. Especially because sometimes that equipping is only seasonal. Like you may only be equipped to do that thing for a certain amount of time. And so if we just continue to say, well, so-and-so has always done Sunday school, and now they've been doing it for 40 years, and they're just like, I don't even know what else I'm actually even good at or capable of, or how much this church trusts me to do anything else, because they've just assumed that this is the only thing that I know how to do.
And but guess what? You know why that is? Here comes the push. Because we've confused being available with being equipped.
Yeah.
Availability doesn't mean equipped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got a lot of people that are out of position, not because there's something wrong with them, but because we place a higher regard on availability.
Yeah.
I would rather you be equipped and prepared in the area that you're strongest in, rather than just be available. There are a lot of available people, and then when you finally find people that are equipped, There's some people that get upset when they're like, so what? You're pushing me to the side? Be like, no. We finally found what is necessary in this space, and we want to find a way to use you more effectively.
Right.
Because I mean, come on, man. If there was ever part of the church that should be fully evident of that, is the preaching ministry. Everybody ain't got no business preaching.
Yeah.
Like, not forget the study piece, forget the education piece, all that stuff. Just for a minute. For a minute. Because you can have a whole big debate about that. But there's some people just on principle, ain't got a thing to do with whether you got a degree or not, if you read your Bible, if you're literate, okay? There's some people ain't got no business getting up on a Sunday morning and saying anything from a pulpit.
Yeah.
For a myriad of reasons.
Right. Yeah. It's not a judgment. It's just an
right. No,
observation.
this is just truth.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some cats I know right now. They take tests well.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they got degrees. They take tests well.
Yeah.
And they got degrees because they take tests well, and they still sound crazy. So it's not whether or not you know your stuff. It's whether or not you are really in a position that you can compel something out of people.
Yeah.
Some folk just can't. Okay? That doesn't mean you don't have some kind of usage.
Mm-hmm.
It means that you were never told, examine and discern where you might be most useful.
Yeah. Well, and I think we talk a lot, especially like before and after the podcast, we sit here and we rap about random stuff, and we always talk about how the best ability in sports is availability, right? And so I think we sometimes carry that over into other things. And like, yes, the best ability in sports is availability, but it's still someone's job to be able to say, hey, you shouldn't play quarterback, you should play left tackle. You know what I mean?
Good God.
Like, and even though in high school you may have played quarterback,
right?
That is not your position anymore, sir. We need you to do something that you're more equipped to do in this season.
Exactly. And then because of those things, right, we then have to go back, look at what triage then means on another level. It means that triage determines priority and not value.
Yes.
Which means that when you're triaging, the most urgent usually gets the attention in medical triage, right? And it's not about how much someone matters, but it's because they may need more right now.
Yeah.
And some people are not prepared to deal with an immediate need and recognize what's an immediate need and what's okay, we can deal with this on the other side. Sometimes we begin to think that because of how somebody comes, all of a sudden everybody's getting pushed aside. No, sometimes there are some things that are just immediate.
Yeah, if you're actively bleeding in my ER, I have to address that.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot just let you sit here and bleed out and have the person sitting next to you with a broken toe be upset that I'm prioritizing the fact that you're bleeding out.
I'm gonna equate that to altar prayer. There are certain people that come to the altar every week. I'm not knocking it, but there's certain folk that come to the altar every week.
Yeah.
Every week. Without fail. Same spot, same everything, every week, right? And usually it is not to intercede for somebody else. Sure. It is strictly them.
Yeah.
Okay? And then there are other people that come that may not always come, that are going through something emergent, right? And when that person's going through an emergent thing, sometimes we break out the oil and lay hands. Somebody that doesn't know any better would think, oh, they getting the oil and I'm not. But you don't understand.
Right.
We recognize you've been up here 20 million times. And you keep on coming, usually with the same thing.
Yeah. Even though every week I tell you to leave it here.
You done picked it up, took it back, sat with it, and then you act surprised that when you come back next Sunday and you sit in the same space, in the same pew, where the only place you left it was right there in the pew, so you could pick it back up, bring it back, weep, cry, holler, everything else, and then pick it back up, take it back, because you're in a perpetual state. You know what they call that in the ER when when people are always coming into the ER for whatever reason, you know what they call them?
Hypochondria.
No, frequent flyers.
Oh, okay.
They
That's
call
fair.
when
Yeah.
they come to the ER, they're called frequent flyers. So when people know that you're a frequent flyer, unless you are dealing with something that is way more traumatic than any other time,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they treat you a certain way because they know that your view of healthcare is not getting your own PCP for whatever reason.
Mhm.
You will come to the ER because that's how you deal with your healthcare.
And that's why discernment is so important on both sides of that spectrum, right? Because
Yes.
if like, this is not to demean or anything, but
No.
it's a common trope that you see where like a hospital will say, oh, well, so-and-so was just here to try to get a drug or to try to get a medicine,
Mhm.
right? But in that moment when that person actually shows up with something actually going on,
Yes.
then they get dismissed because we're just assuming that you're here for the same reason that you're always here.
And that is when you go back to the beginning, what we talked about. You need to be honest about where your stuff is.
Yeah.
If you're saying to me by your presence, your actions, all this other stuff, I feel like I need to be here. I need what's going on here. Y'all have heard me say this a million times because it was a revelation that I got years ago. As, since I've been a pastor, I am not a spiritual drug dealer.
Right. Right.
So when people come, my goal is not to get you high.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to make sure that whatever I'm giving you helps you
Mm-hmm.
so that you can leave out of here better than when you came.
Right.
It's not to say you won't come back on a Sunday and stuff be bad again. It is to say the goal is to what? Get you out better, not to get you out and you leave out high.
But that's such a different. So many of our systems are designed for you to need to be dependent on that system.
Yes.
And so folks are coming into the church not through necessarily any fault of their own,
Yeah.
with the expectation that that is exactly what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to give me my hit for the week instead of trying to say, no, I'm trying to get you so that, yes, you can come back, but not necessarily come back needing the same thing that you needed when you came in last week.
Yes. And that puts pressure, that puts undue pressure on certain folk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got to, but I just expect this to be this.
Yeah.
I expect pastor to show up like he always is. I expect ... And then if you hear the specialist
Mm-hmm.
tell you, you know what, I'm not having a great day. I'm going to give you the best that I have, but I may need a little more time because I done too many shifts in a row. I've done, you know what I mean? Like you got surgeons that are like, at some point, I done 8-9 surgeries in the course of about 36 to 48 hours, man. Yeah. I need to sit down somewhere. I haven't been home. I've been in this break room between 2 and 3 hour surgeries and doing this and doing that. I need a minute, but what? Something else comes. And so we have to be better as the church to say that we are identifying what are the things that are really coming our way.
Yes.
The statement I made for 2 years, what's coming to your doorstep? What's arriving at your doorstep? 9 times out of 10, that gives you an idea of what it is that you have to address. Yeah. And if you don't recognize what's coming to your doorstep, you're going to say, well, this is more important than this. And then you're missing the opportunity to minister to folk that need it in an emergent way rather than the folk that keep on coming just to what?
Yeah.
And I know that's not pretty, but that is the only way I can put it. I don't want to shoot you up.
Yeah.
If it's really not going to help you, it's just going to alleviate how you feeling in a moment. That is not what this is.
Especially when you have to deal with the uncomfortable piece of someone may show up on your doorstep only for you to understand that it's your job to send them to the correct doorstep.
Right.
A lot of times if someone shows up at my doorstep, I now feel like it's now my job
Yes.
to fix whatever it is that they've shown up to get fixed, when you might not be the person who's equipped to fix that.
Which leads into the last little step. Triage directs the next step.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the end all. Triage directs the next step. So check it out. James didn't stop, right? He didn't stop at identifying suffering. Here it is. Is anyone among you suffering? Question mark. What was his answer? Let him pray. So that means this is the direction that you need. Are you suffering? Go pray.
Mm-hmm.
Are you cheerful? Sing about it. Are you sick? Call for the elders. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that James is doing now is like he's asking all the triage questions. Are you messed up? Pray.
Mm-hmm.
Are you cheerful? Sing about it. Shout about it, right? Are you sick? You call for the elders. So that's a whole nother level of what? Care.
Right.
You're not going to get your answers in this moment. This is where we triage you to where you got to go over here.
Right.
Go to the elders, and not just any old elders, the elders that know how to pray and know how to what? Anoint your head with oil.
Mm-hmm.
And the prayer, and the prayer of faith will save the one who is sick.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? So it's like my job is to see it, identify it, know what's happening, and then send you to the gateway to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. Some folk need prayer, some folk need counseling, some need accountability, and some need community.
Mm. Mm.
Triage literally is supposed to be like, okay, you came with this, so what you really need, you'll sit through the word, but what you really need is some prayer.
Yeah.
Oh, you came on Sunday morning and you got more going on. Okay, you may need counseling, whether it's pastoral or professional.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Some pastors over the years that are untrained in counseling have tried to tell folk about what they need to do with stuff that is beyond their pay grade, and they have messed up more people than a little bit.
Absolutely.
And that's why I tell anybody, if you're going to pastor somebody somewhere and you need at least 1 or 2 classes on counseling. I would even venture to say, why don't you get a concentration? If you're only going to get an MDiv, get a little bit of a concentration too. Get a concentration in pastoral counseling and care.
Yeah.
One of the people I follow on social media, he said this, he's absolutely right. If you're going to pastor somewhere, somebody, or you think you want to pastor, you better take a CPE course and do some stuff in chaplaincy and learn how to do stuff in a hospital. And it'll probably make you a better pastor overall because you'll know how to care for people.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Every pastor is not equipped to counsel. No matter what I was told when I was coming up, every pastor ain't built to counsel nobody.
Yeah.
Some will tell you some stuff, over spiritualize it, have no discerning anything about the fact that it's not a demon, it's depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm serious. People be like, depression ain't nothing but a demon. Shut.
You got a potential chemical imbalance going on. Yeah.
Say to them, I can't give you medication nor what you need, but guess what I can do?
Mm-hmm.
I can give you a list of folk that are what? Bound by law to keep your stuff.
Yep.
And it's probably better to go to those people. If you have a preference about somebody that understands your faith journey and things like that, and they respect your faith journey, but they can also give you exactly what you need, we can find those folk too. There are all kinds of ways to do these types of things. Mm-hmm. But if we don't triage people well, we don't put them where they can flourish, grow, and everything else.
Yeah.
Some people just want community. They don't want to lead.
Mhm.
They want to be a part of something. They just want to be a part of something. And a part of something for them is not necessarily where they got to be out in front or they got to do this or they got to do that. They just want to be around some people that are positive.
Yeah.
Do you not know how many people live in this world right now ain't got nobody? And I'm including people that have family that are living. I'm talking about they ain't got nobody.
Yeah. And no place where they can just show up and not feel judged for one reason or another.
Or not feel by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How you going to be in a crowd and feel alone? It's possible.
Absolutely.
But our job or the triage team within the local church or those within the global church, their job is to then be able to discern, understand, and lead people in the right direction, making sure they get to the right place.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't do that, then we are going to what? Mess up some things, right? The church gets stuck when everything gets the same response. Church gets stuck when everything. And so we got to identify this thing. We got to deal with this reality, right? There's so many people that get misdiagnosed in church. Can I tell you about when I was misdiagnosed?
Please.
I've talked about it a million times, though. When I was maybe 14, 15 years old, actually, it wasn't even then. It was actually closer to 16. I was on my way to 16. And I was getting myself ready for ministry. I found myself going to the altar a lot. A lot. There was like a period where I found myself going to the altar a lot. I beat everybody to the altar. Like, no, for real. Like, I found a way to have my. So, if you ever been to Mount Olivet, some things have changed there. But back in the day, the communion table was on the floor. Everything was kind of flat across. It's not like nothing like what it is now. They changed up the platforms and things like that. But the communion table was on the floor, got all this space. Everybody just, when it was time to pray, whether it was the set time or it was like after the altar call, something like that. It's because sometimes we prayed multiple times. I mean, it was a bunch. I just got to the altar and I stayed there. And I found myself maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a row just stuck there, even after the prayer was over. I'm talking through the benediction. I'm talking through everything. I did not move. I didn't move. Even after the benediction, I was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first Sunday that happened, I just couldn't get myself up. But what I felt was when people were going to greet my pastor, people were coming across me and basically stepping over me.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody stopped. And I'm not saying anybody should have. I'm not saying that. But there were people that were more concerned about greeting the pastor than what a teenage kid was doing, staying at the altar. One thing I can tell you, my grandfather didn't come get me. He let me be. My grandfather didn't come get me. My grandmother didn't come get me. None of that stuff. They let me be. They ain't even try to rush me to get me out of the church.
Right. Yeah.
They let me be. And I stayed until almost everybody left. Next Sunday, I found myself there again. But can I tell you what happened the next Sunday? The next Sunday, my pastor stood in front of me and covered me from all the people that would have tried to climb over me again. He literally, I didn't see it. I just felt, it's going to sound a certain way. I felt the hem of his garment on my feet.
Yeah.
I knew it was him, and he covered me. He didn't ask me nothing, none of that other stuff. He had to have witnessed what happened, and he saw that I was intentionally there, and he covered me from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
He did not tell me to get up. He didn't do nothing. He touched my shoulder on his way down, and then he stood in front of me so nobody would climb over me. I'll never forget that as long as I live, right? Some people don't know how to diagnose the moment, because sometimes people are so concerned about their own stuff that they don't pay attention to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
If somebody decided to stay at the altar after I finished the benediction, nothing you got to say to me is more important than what's happening in front of me. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing you can say about how well I preached and this, that ain't that important. Ain't that important. Because if I say something next week you don't like, whatever you would have said to me then will be null and void. We have too many people that are misunderstood because nobody's taking the time to try to diagnose the situation. And so we have to get to a place where we stop trying to fit what we think is going on, and then understand that sometimes we can misread this thing, and if we misread it, it can do some damage.
Right.
Who knows? If I didn't get covered, I might not be on a podcast right now 28 years later talking about that and talking about how that impacted my life more than. You see what I mean? So you never know. So has there ever been a time when you were misdiagnosed? It don't got to be long because we're coming to the end.
Yeah.
But is there ever time you felt like you were misdiagnosed? Is there any time that some people in here ever felt like they were misdiagnosed?
Oh, I ain't got
That's a deep question.
Yeah.
I think we misdiagnose a lot of the young people when they go to the altar.
Mm-hmm.
What they come to the altar for? Well, they so and so, they got this going on. They just gonna do it this Sunday. They ain't come back next Sunday anyway. We judge their purpose for coming down when they might be really dealing with something.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you were dealing with something. You was at the altar. People just said, "Okay, let me move on." He probably got something going on. So he young man. I ain't telling what he in there for. He did last Sunday. Instead of really, like you said, trying to figure out what the person really needs. And if, like you said, if you can't give it to them, then guide them to the source that they can get to, because they're young, just like you were young one time, and you might not know where the sources were, or you had people around you. And it's not like that anymore because it's like one or two kids. And so it's going to get worse where people aren't going to have each other because if I don't like my brother and there's just two of us, then I'm by myself. So we have to, the altar to me is a very special place. It's not the place just come up and just because they call it head altar call, People that are up there that really go up there for a real reason, and they can actually show their emotions because they got something serious going on, and they need somebody not to, what's going on with you? Maybe they don't need you to ask some questions. Like you said, your pastor just stood near you, stand near them, and just be a support. You ain't got to ask nothing, and hopefully they'll leave it right there like we're supposed to and not pick it back up like we always do.
I keep thinking it's not apples to apples, and I don't know why I bring up this story so much, but I keep thinking about that man by the pool.
Yeah.
Who was just like, I just need somebody to help me get in the pool. I'm not asking you to do anything more. I'm not asking you to be the one that heals me. I'm not asking you to be the one that gives me money. I just need somebody to help me get in the pool.
Right. But here's the interesting thing about that is he had been conditioned to the point where he was told there's power in the pool.
Right.
So that's why even though you may try to say it's not apple, it actually kind of is, because we're also conditioned to believe that when you come, there should be what? There should be an answer. There should be something that meets. So you're not off by bringing that story up. People, if that man said, I just need somebody to get me down to the pool, he was preoccupied with what he'd been conditioned to understand.
Right.
Rather than understand that his healing was literally in front of him. Do you want to be made whole? Yeah. That Jesus showed up. Now you don't need help to get to the pool. All your help is in front of your face. But Jesus allowed him to say his piece. Do you want to be made whole? And then he says, well, I need somebody to get me into the pool. Mm-hmm. Because that's how his what? His thinking was.
Yes.
But Jesus says, well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Take up your bed and walk. And here's the thing that everybody misses. That man didn't just get up. He helped the man up. Yeah. And he began to what? Everybody misses those parts about Jesus. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't just snap his fingers, dude jumped up. Dude ain't walked in years. He helped him on his feet and gave him access to the power to walk into things. So he still directed him where he needed to go. He examined the whole thing. He said, do you want to be what? Whole.
But I guess, and this is maybe my limited scope, and so I apologize. But like when I hear what you say, and when I hear what you say, I think there's a piece of that where the man just needed to not feel like people were just going to step over him. And there was a community aspect. Jesus didn't necessarily have to heal the man physically.
Yeah.
Because Jesus can do so much more than that. He doesn't have to heal the man physically if the community comes together to help that man do what he needs to do in the midst of whatever his ailment is, rather than just stepping over him. Mm-hmm. So there's an aspect where, like, sometimes folks just need to know that you aren't going to step over them, aren't going to judge them, aren't going to make them feel bad for the need that they have.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, like, that's sort of where where when I say, like, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, obviously, yeah, he's conditioned to think about it. But if the community had showed up for him in a different way, then that conditioning doesn't mean as much, because he's not solely reliant on whatever this pool can do for him or what he thinks this pool can do for him.
So then you have led into the framework that we should be able to take away from tonight. Triage is not just a word, it's an acronym. This is a model that can be used. Triage is an acronym. The T represents take notice. When you take notice, that means you be aware of people. Mm-hmm. The R represents you need to recognize the need. You got to discern what's really going on. Got to discern what's really going on. Then the I is identify urgency, which means what needs attention now. People always want to go to the nth degree when the first things first. Y'all have heard me say this. You can't preach to somebody who's hungry. Mm-hmm. You can't preach to somebody and say, come on and hear this. Wait, get fed by the word and then get fed later. No, if I'm hungry, guess what I'm going to hear over what you're doing on the mic? Well, hear my stomach.
Correct.
And I'm not going to focus on nothing you got to say. Sometimes you need to what? Feed the person before they'll hear anything you got to say. And sometimes feeding them will actually open up the doors for all the other things that will allow them to see life differently, okay?
That's why they say don't send your kids to school hungry.
Man, if you can help it.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
If you can help it, right?
We should be making sure that kids don't go to school hungry.
Amen.
Yes.
So then you get to the A, you assign response, which means who is equipped to respond. Everybody's not equipped to respond to everything. Mm-hmm. And guess what, y'all? That's okay.
Yep.
I need everybody in the life of the church to hear that. Everybody is not equipped to deal with everything. And that is okay. we have to recognize who's equipped to respond. G is guide to care. In other words, what is the next step? You got to get people going in the right direction. You cannot take somebody who just came in a relationship with God on day 1 all the way to seminary on day 2. Make sense? Mm-hmm. You cannot tell them, okay, I'm glad that you're saved now. Now you need to go to school to learn all this stuff. No, you need to what? Let them, here it is, grow in grace. Really? Yes. That makes you a good Methodist, especially you talking about grace. Oh, my God. It makes you a great Methodist if you really live it out. But it really makes you a great believer if you actually function in that way. You got to guide people in the right direction. Quit trying to send people over to stuff they ain't ready for. Mm-hmm. Just stop it, okay? Just stop it. Care. We got to give them the next step. And the E is evaluate continuously, which means you got to follow up. It's the E that's most difficult. You got to follow up. Got to follow up. And sometimes we get tired in the follow up, but some people that get real tired in the follow up are the ones that are always following up. Mm-hmm. So that means that sometimes you got to have what? Again, it's a team effort, not an individual pursuit. Right. So if it's a team effort, you might have been the one to identify where they should go. But then there are others that can come along and say, we're going to follow up and make sure that you're okay. Yeah. And then when we're following up, we're able to what? Pass it down to those that want and need the follow-up so that they can do what they can do. But if we don't do these things, we sometimes lose folk before we can help folk. Mm-hmm. So this is what happens. A church without triage misses people, mishandles pain, and multiplies damage. But a church with triage sees clearly, responds wisely, and heals intentionally. Mm. This is not a throwaway part of what we do. Mm-hmm. We need this. So here's the final thing to sit with as we finish tonight. You don't have to answer this question because we done. This thing flowed extremely well tonight. Yeah. And we're going to keep on dealing with all these levels. Are we treating people or are we hosting them? Are we treating people or are we just hosting them? Mm. Are we being the hospital are we being the hospital or are we majoring in hospitality matters? Are we being a hospital or are we being a hotel?
Enjoy your stay.
Are we being a hospital or are we being a resort? Mm. Are we treating those who might be sick or are we trying to wine and dine them to death so they go out happy rather than whole? Maybe we need to sit with that for a minute too. Wow. Are we treating people or are we just hosting them? My hope is that we're not just hosting folk, but that we're treating folk. So thank you for tonight, the conversation. We're going to continue the conversation as we go further because we need to see how this thing moves from triage into actual care. And we know that there's actual levels of care. So let's make sure that we are praying as we take this journey. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may he cause his face to shine upon you, give you peace. And may the Lord bless every effort of your days now and forever. And all God's people said, amen.
Amen.
God bless you. See you next week.
Peace.